Yeah, what's the word? What's the word? What's the word? Today I'm here for another video, a reaction video, but this time it's gonna be a Philly cheesesteak. This is from we're gonna be watching not another cooking show. I don't know his actual name, but this is his YouTube channel. He got 1 million subscribers, and this has about 1.6 million views. So let's see what he has in store for us with this Philly cheesesteak.
Before we jump into making cheesesteaks, two ways. One way to honor our friends down in Philly, a cheesesteak whiz wit, and another sort of like the Philly cheesesteak of my dreams. One that just adds a few more elements into it that
Okay.
I think make it maybe a little bit better. So we've got one traditional and then one my way. But first, let's prepare the meat. I got a ribeye here. It's about 1.5 pounds and it's been in the freezer for about 3 to 4 hours until it's firm sort of all the way to the center. It's not really bendable at all. It's nice and stiff. Then I'm gonna need a mandolin. And if you can find this one, which is widely available online and in stores, this Japanese one's a good one. You're gonna need a good one. If you don't have a good one, this probably is not gonna work as well, and you'll have to just use a knife.
I go front. Those two cheesesteaks that he just presented, they look kind of good. I don't know about the broccoli though. I don't know about the broccoli. We gonna see though.
And my setup, cut resistant glove. Put the glove on first. I'm gonna go as thin as I can. I'm gonna use this, but at first, I like to hold it upright like this, so you're slicing the shortest side of the meat, which just sort of makes for easier cuts. And you just wanna make sure that you're not being timid here.
Okay.
When you're going to make the slice, you wanna make that push forward confidently, with your hands safely out of the way, and it's gonna result in a perfectly thin slice.
That's that.
Once you get down to the bottom, then you can use this guard and finish it up.
Give you a guard.
Now you got some beautifully...
I go front. That shit look cheap as hell, but that shit looks efficient as fuck. Pieces is cut good.
thinly sliced
Continue.
steak. It's got nice marbling. It's got nice fat.
I go front. A good Philly cheesesteak has to be seasoned perfectly. So, yo, you can put out. I be putting out. I like adobo my shit. I don't know about y'all. Adobo, green peppers, red peppers, onions. You got motherfucking mayo. Uh, lettuce. I have to put lettuce on my shit. Like growing up in New York, like you gotta have lettuce. It's automatic. You gotta have lettuce. Why? Because it just tastes better that way. But I understand he's gonna make it the traditional way, no lettuce, no tomatoes, or none of that. But I promise you, like,
It's gonna add a ton of flavor to the cheesesteak. Now, to me, the best cheesesteak is one that's kind of chopped up into little bite-sized pieces.
yes.
And cheese gets mixed up all inside. So that's what we're gonna aim
Yes.
for this. Some people don't think you should use ribeye for something like this. I disagree. If you disagree with me, then use a different cut of meat. This isn't, you know. So this should make probably 2 sandwiches, maybe 3, depending on the roll you use and how stuffed you make them. But we can set this off to the side until we're ready to use it. Now say you don't love your knife skills and you don't have one of those mandolins and you do have an Asian market close by, you might be in luck because they will take ribeye and slice it real thin along the width of the surface. Probably closer to what you'd see.
That's actually neat as fuck. Yeah, they don't do that at regular supermarkets.
In a Philly cheesesteak restaurant in Philly. Sometimes they'll just slap huge pieces like this.
I actually watched this guy a couple times. I never seen him make a cheesesteak though. I think I got him on like my Instagram. Like, he makes some like real like cultural cuisines. It could be from Romania or motherfucking Italy. Like, and it looks good. Some looks, and something I wouldn't even try. Some of it does
This
look good.
serum,
So,
either chop it up from there or serve them whole. So you've got some options so you can go whichever way you feel most comfortable with. So we're just gonna dice up a couple onions. You want a good amount of onion. Now I just roughly chop it along the curvature of the onion, no horizontal cuts, and then just into sort of a large dice. I want them large enough so that they can cook down and still give a little bit of texture to the meat.
he cooked that onions. I ain't gonna hold
I don't
you.
want them too big.
Damn, bro.
It's called around a pound of onions chopped. At
Right.
least. More is fine, but at least this amount. And we're gonna make one with just onions and whiz. But we're also gonna make one more of my way, and that one's gonna require, you guessed it, broccolini. Now you can use broccoli rabe, that's a classic, but I love me some broccolini. I'm just gonna chop it up into more of like a bite-sized kind of piece. About something like that. So I got my broccolini and I'm gonna need a little bit of garlic.
Hell no. Hell no. Broccolini? Nah, he got me. Nah, hell no.
So we got our
I don't even like greens like that, my nigga. Like, like, I don't even like eating salad, my nigga. Like, hey, you eat salad, right, for lunch or whatever you trying to lose weight. That shit will leave you hungry in the next 20 to 30 minutes, bro. Probably even less. Like, you still feel hungry, bro. Like that's why I can't do salad, bro.
garlic.
I can't.
And we're gonna add some hot cherry peppers. Tangy, bright,
I'm a big
spicy,
guy.
adds a nice little flavor to the whole mix and some balance to the richness and the sweetness. So for the cheese sauce, all we're gonna go in with a little bit of heavy cream or some milk is fine. And then I like the contrast of like a high-end ingredient and a low end. The low end's gonna give us this mouthfeel, and Velveeta or American is sort of that thing that is irreplaceable by artisanal cheese.
I'm not gonna lie,
So we
bro. You getting
blend that
fancy with this shit.
creamy mouthfeel that is irreplaceable with a high-end aged cheddar. And those two are gonna make up our whiz. Very simple. You could add all sorts of stuff. You could steep the milk in garlic and onions and spices to add more flavor to it, but at its most basic, it's just gonna be these three ingredients, maybe a little bit of salt, and that's gonna be a perfect cheese sauce. Now just roughly dice up about a half pound of that cheddar and then
Using the whole
equal
shit?
amount of the American cheese and just get them all into a bowl. Now I can't really
I can't buy like cheeses like that. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm getting myself into. Like, I gotta get it from the store, from the deli.
move forward in this video without talking about some essential tools that really allow you to
shit looks good,
execute
though.
what somebody might identify visually as a
So far, so
traditional
good.
Philly cheesesteak with whiz. That chopped meat, the way it sits in the sub, everything about
Okay.
it just needs a few special ingredients. That's not to say you
I go front. Cheese whiz on the Philly is it's kind of different.
can't make it without them, but these
Kinda
help.
different. We're only gonna see. We're gonna go show the part where he used the whiz on the regular cheesesteak. Not why he puts it on the broccoli.
Make that
Now
look
they
and that whole experience of eating a Philly cheesesteak more attainable. And now I like to have two basic tools for actually cooking the steak. And that is one of these wall scrapers from like a hardware store. This is only designated for cooking. I don't do any housework with it, so. And then I need spatulas. And you kind of want a spatula that is a little bit bigger. This is the roll I'm gonna use. And this spatula basically fits the entire thing. So that when I go and flip the meat into the sandwich, everything stays compact and it doesn't fall out. This is a good spatula too, but as you can see, if I try and flip it like that, all this stuff's gonna fly out. But this is why you have different size utensils for different size jobs. This one's gonna work perfectly. And if you don't have one of these, you can obviously use a shorter one. This has a sharper edge too. So that allows you to have one spatula holding the meat down on the counter, so you can chop and scrape the meat to create that really fine, coarse texture that is iconic in a Philly cheesesteak. So we've got our utensils, got our bread. Now obviously a flat top is the tool that's used to usually make something like that, but most
He's
people don't have
spitting
a
right
flat
now.
top. If you have a flat top, great. But if you don't, you can obviously use whatever pan you want and you can probably get it done. But the best is a cast iron, especially a 12-inch cast iron. I'm gonna need that pan to easily fit the piece of bread there.
Alright, bro,
I
chill.
want
Like,
the spatula to be able to
you didn't get to the good part, bro.
scrape under there and get all that beautiful caramelized beef before I flip it into the sandwich. A wide surface area also allows you to sort of work on different things, make sure everything gets nicely caramelized, and that cast iron's gonna retain heat, which we need to make sure the product is as good as it can be. And the last thing we need is a double boiler. I'm basically gonna add a little bit of water to the bottom of this pan, just enough to create steam, but not enough where the bottom of this pan is gonna touch the water. I'm gonna take about a cup or so and add it straight into the double boiler. It's gonna allow us to melt those cheeses into that sauce and create like a really beautiful cheese sauce that's really gonna look exactly like Cheese Whiz, but it's gonna have flavor, which is what we want. Now the fat we're using is the key to this. Whenever I roast bones, beef bones, or make stock, I always reserve the beef fat for moments like this because the pure flavor of a Philly cheesesteak is the grease that's been accumulating on the flat top the entire day that the steaks are being cooked. That's where the flavor comes from that is so hard to replicate at home. So you use beef tallow or beef fat. You can get it at the store, or you can reserve it whenever you make stock, or you can make it from fat at home, or whatever you want. There's lots of ways to do it. But to get that real Philly cheesesteak flavor,
I ain't gonna hold you. I'll probably just fucking throw the shit. I'll throw my
that
steak in like
depth of
that.
beef,
Or
get
use
yourself some beef
olive
fat
oil or
and
something
use
like
that
that.
to make everything in this recipe. It's like using butter or bacon fat to make carbonara instead of guanciale. That guanciale is the iconic flavor of carbonara. So then once that fat's in there and the pan's hot, we're gonna add the onions. And we really just wanna cook them until they've softened. And you can see that they're translucent, like they've cooked all the way through and they're beginning to brown. We're just gonna par cook it for now, and it's gonna get more time in with the beef later. So we just wanna get that out of a pan, set that aside, add a little bit more of that fat, and then get the broccolini.
That looks
and
good
again,
right there.
We're par cooking the broccolini. I really kind of just wanna get some sear to it. I wanna get a little bit of color development, some caramelization.
I'm not gonna
Give it
hold
a little
you.
time to just
I'm not
like
eating that.
sear in the pan, untouched, to develop some nice color. I want to cook it through about
I'm not eating that.
halfway. And once I see it's about where I want it, it's nice bright green, still got some texture to it, I'm going to add the garlic and some chili flake. And once that garlic is beginning to slightly brown, I'm going to turn the heat off, then I'm going to get the broccolini into a bowl, and then we can work on our cheese sauce. Now, you might be thinking, why'd you use cream and not milk? I don't hold milk in my house. So when I went to go make a cheese sauce, all I had was cream for coffee. So I used that, and it creates like a nice thick cheese sauce, but also you can use milk. You might just need to use a little bit less or a little bit more cheese. It really doesn't matter. The dairy is a vehicle to melt the cheese in. And so we're just gonna whisk over that simmering double boiler until the cheese sauce melts.
This is how you make your cream, my boys.
Slowly adding the cheese.
I will start reacting to like lasagna. I'm gonna
Little
react to
bite.
my favorite
And the double
foods or
boiler
even
will
like
not only
foods I
melt
don't
the cheese
like.
gently, but it will allow us to keep it warm while we make everything else. So we just want to keep melting it and stirring it until we've achieved a cheese sauce that is luscious and it flows in a steady stream and is thick but is not too thick. If it's ever too thick, we can add a little bit of heavy cream, a little bit of milk, and thin it back out until it's the right consistency. You want it thick enough to really coat a spoon, but also thin enough to flow lusciously off that spoon. Now let's talk about the roll. It's a very typical roll you might see in New York. A hero, a hoagie roll, but something that's not like spongy soft on the outside like a potato bun, but has like a little bit of a...
I ain't gonna hold you, bro. I think New York Philly cheesesteaks are better than regular.
A little bit of a
Philly
hard
cheesesteaks.
exterior. For a sandwich like this, I always like to toast the whole thing whole, uncut, so it kind of replicates it's like a freshly baked roll. The exterior will have like a nice little crunch of texture, and then the inside will be nice and soft and steamed, and then we're gonna finish it on top of the meat when it's cooking. So we're gonna make 2 Philly cheesesteaks. The first one we're gonna make is gonna be a shout out to our homies down in Philadelphia. We're gonna make a classic whiz wit. And if you don't know what that means, whiz just means with whiz, and wit means onions. So if you didn't want onions, you would say whiz without, and I'm not from Philly, so I'm basing that simply on research. If I made
They use Swiss cheese and
a
Philly.
mistake, I'm sure you're gonna let me know down below. First thing we do, toast this guy out. Get the bread in, we want a light toast, don't go too hard. We're gonna check on our cheese.
I gotta go to
it's
Philly,
looking beautiful. Once the bread is toasted, we wanna give it a slice open, and then I cut the edges off. The edges always feel like a little bit of no man's land to me. So now we got our cast iron hot on the stove. We're gonna get some of that beef fat in. Then we got it on high heat, and once that fat is melted and the pan is ripping hot, we wanna add about a half pound of the beef. And we wanna take our tools and spread it out across the pan and then season with salt. We wanna give that a moment to sear on that one side, and then we wanna take it and start to flip it. Get a little bit of color on that other side, and then that's when we're gonna start to implement our chopping technique. We went over this
Yo, bro.
earlier, while also
Somebody
you
don't want to
can't
know about
do
the
this
chopping
in
technique,
the
my
pan.
boy. Like,
And then once those onions are nicely
cool.
incorporated into the meat, we're gonna add a little bit of cheese sauce that we're gonna start to incorporate into the beef itself. Ooh. Now we're ready for the
That
bun. We wanna take the
looks
bun
good
and smear
right
some of that cheese
there.
sauce directly in it and open and close it a little bit to just disperse it evenly, and then place that directly on top of the meat. And then we want to let that sit. And the meat on the surface is going to caramelize, almost like developed enough caramelization on that bottom. Then you're going to smash burger
shit.
as molten hot, and you could burn yourself. A little bit of cheese sauce on top, and you've got a cheesesteak whiz wit.
that is the final product. What we're gonna call it here, ladies and gentlemen. That shit looks good as hell. I'm gonna give that a 9 out of 10 because it'll have no letters. But That looks good. Like, comment, subscribe. And thank you all for coming here again.